I'm going to run you through two things on this video. The first one is how we handle large hedge trimming jobs where we're cutting off multiple feet off a hedge that's also substantially long. And after we go through that, I'm going to show you how I priced the job out, how many hours were spent in comparison to how many hours I estimated we would be there. All right, guys, let's get to it. We're going to be tackling a large hedge trimming job. The one that Zach's on right behind me. We're cutting it all the way off the top, going down to this level all the way across. So about 6 foot, about 30 feet long, and about anywhere from 8 to 12 feet wide. We're gonna go in there with the chainsaw and cut it all the way across, all the way down off of this level here that Zach's cutting out. I'm gonna cut all that stuff out, drop it on the ground, and then we're gonna back our dump trailer into the driveway up and load it all with the back end of the doors there and load it all from the back. That's not the only big one we're tackling though. We will also be trimming up these two ligustrums, shaping them up, cutting off all that excess foliage and making them nice and tight. And again, we'll drop these, back the dump trailer up and get all the debris loaded up, blow everything off and get on out of here. Those of you who believe the electric equipment isn't cut out for doing stuff like this, we're using 3 main tools today. That Makita hedge trimmer, we'll be going through and hitting this shrub down after it gets hit with the Makita chainsaw. See above me, I've made these cuts going down and stopped right there. Had to swap out the batteries on them. Jobs like these, we bring the chargers with us. We hook them up to the power outlets, so we constantly are charging our batteries as we're using them. Just got done getting everything cleaned up. Gonna blow it down, then we'll be out of here. See, we got all this trimmed. We trimmed up this bougainvillea, this hedge. We probably took 6 foot off of this whole thing. Here's the other side of it, and we did end up going back to the shop and picking up our Makita pole saw, just because this hedge was so wide we couldn't reach the center of it. So we got this hedge all cleaned up. We were able to reach the top of it. On this one, we weren't able to get that little bit up at the very top. This hedge is a couple feet wider than this one over here, so our hedge trimmer was not long enough to get up there, and that was with an 8 foot ladder. All in all though, everything went pretty smooth. Got everything knocked out. Clients are happy with the work, and we're gonna get out of here and go enjoy our weekend. All right guys, so now we're gonna jump into the budgeted hours and how I estimated this job. So for this job, I expected to be there for a total of 8 hours, or 8 labor hours to be specific. So if you have 2 guys, each of those guys is working 4 hours, a total of 8 labor hours. Now what we actually spent there was 4.5 hours. And I was wrong and right about the estimate, and this is why. I didn't anticipate having to go back to the shop to pick up the pole saw. I should have grabbed that first thing in the morning, just to always make sure we have all the tools we need, whether we need them or not. So we had about an extra hour of drive time going to and from the shop, grabbing the pole saw, and then knocking out the center of the shrub that we needed for it because we couldn't reach it. Now, if I were to remove the hour of drive time that we had on that job, it was 3.5 hours, and in that regard, I would have been correct on how I bid this job. So whenever I go to bid jobs like this, bid them between $60 and $80 an hour, plus any additional fees that we incur performing the work. And in this case, our additional fee that we had to include in was a dump fee, because we had to haul off all the shrubbery that we had cut down. So all in all, this job was pretty spot on. I made the mistake of forgetting the pole saw, a little hiccup, but the amount of time that we spent on the actual job working was pretty in par with how I estimated this job. That's just an idea of how we do it. I always go by budgeted labor hours. This job, I gave a little bit of extra time to account for having to go up and down on the ladder, having several ladder moves, and the amount of time it's going to take to load everything into the trailer. These numbers are all pertaining to the hedge in the center of the two properties that I had to cut 6 feet off of. The other two large ligustrums that were trimmed there, they are part of our service contract and we prorated into it. So they pay an additional monthly fee. So we come out 3 times a year to trim those two large ligustrums. So these numbers, the budgeted hours, are all based off of the center hedge that was about 30 feet long, needed about 6 feet of foliage removed and hauled off from the top, and it ended up being about 12 feet wide. So that's just a quick insight of how I bit this job and how it compared to what we actually performed there while we were completing the work. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys would do on bidding a job like this.